Hello, listeners, and welcome. If you're a first time listener on this channel, this is a space where we explore the latest educational trends, tackle pressing issues facing the education sector, conduct insightful interviews with people making a difference, and share stories of triumph and innovation from around the globe. Today's guest is a trailblazer in the Caribbean creative industry. He is an award winning musician, composer, and song designer whose work spans film, animation, video games, and immersive media. As the founder of Lancaster Limited, he has built a dynamic career crafting soundscapes that evoke emotion and elevate storytelling. His compositions have powered acclaimed films such as Buck, The Man Spirit, Jab in the Dark, and Immune, earning accolades at the international festivals, including the Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival, Seattle Film Festival, and the Imagine This Woman's Film Festival. His expertise extends beyond composition. He has served as a technical assistant, musical editor, and sound engineer on globally recognized projects like Pan, Our Music Odyssey, and Repercussions, Pan, Our African Odyssey. His collaborative spirit shines through his work with designer Anthony Phils, co-creating the award-winning Unbreakable AR app, which documents Black history through immersive augmented reality experiences. A lifelong learner and cultural advocate, he holds degrees in media and communications and new media and society from the University of Greenwich and the University of Leicester. He's also a registered cultural worker and a stage 32 thought leader, blending his artistic vision with a deep commitment to social impact and education. What makes his story unique is that he built his career first through hands-on experience and then formalized his knowledge with professional certifications and degrees. Join me in welcoming Navid Lancaster. Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so very much.
Yes. Very interesting bio. Very exciting bio. So I'm going to I'm going to start with dessert. I'm taking this interview as if it's a meal, and I'm starting with dessert. I'm not starting with orders, as people might usually do. So
All good.
looking back on all of this, what is the one thing you wished that you had known when you were starting out?
As a creative, especially in the Caribbean,
Mhm.
how hard it's going to be. It's a journey.
Mhm.
You're not the usual doctor, lawyer, engineer, which most people would want you to do in terms of, the safe job or the safe career.
Mhm.
And then I'm not what you call a usual creative. I chose a field that is very nascent, even though it's growing, and then even gets even smaller in terms of film. So I spent about 20 years in the sound engineering fields,
Mhm.
recording artists, producing artists. Uh, did a truckload of commercials when I worked in spectacular promotions. I worked there for about 6 years when they were on Anna Street and dealing mainly with calypso music, soca music, and some light pop. But when you go into film, it's a whole different beast altogether, and especially for an island nation, that's an island republic, uh, that field is not as popular. So to be lasting this long, is a thing, especially since I'm not a director, I'm in post-production.
Explain, what does post-production mean? We've been getting a lot of technical jargon, I think, coming out here. Yeah, what does that mean?
In film, it has three main areas. It has pre-production, where the writing is involved. People sit down and find out what the ideas are for the film, get the funding, for example. They hire the producer, will hire the director, producer and suite producers will hire a director who will do the camera work and so forth. The That's very general. Of course, cast the actors and the crew. The production part of it, the film is actually being made. So you're shooting the film, getting everything, all the the sound properly recorded and these kind of things. And post-production, where I am, that's dealing with things like sound design, composing music for the film, editing for the editing, and then of course for the visual parts like visual editing, color correction, and then of course when everything is has come together, all the parts have come together, you have to mix everything to the final product. So you're mixing all the sound and all the visuals to create a cohesive story, which is of course in the vision of the director.
Yes, when I was setting things up with you, I think I initially had you carded as a sound engineer, but I think it's really a sound designer. Which one
Oh,
really is?
I did that sound engineering for a chunk of my career,
Right.
as well. And I'm still doing it because I teach part-time at SPCS. I
Mm-hmm.
teach sound engineering 101. So
Right.
people, a short course, 8-week course.
Okay.
So people who are interested in sound engineering, recording sound, making the what the tools are in recording sound, how to manipulate the sound,
Mm-hmm.
to get a product. That is part and parcel. So sound engineering and sound design, they're very close cousins.
Okay. So, but there's a distinction between the two.
There's a distinction, but
Okay.
they have lots of overlaps.
Overlap. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't want to age you or make you sound old or anything, but when you
I'm
when you
53.
first start, because you have an extensive
Yes,
experience, so sometimes even when
yes,
you mention, working in Spectacular and this radio station and that
yes,
sort of thing, I said that's a
yes,
lot of history in this
yeah,
field. But when you
yeah.
first started working in this
Mm.
field, what was the creative and the technical landscape like for you here in Trinidad and Tobago, even in the Caribbean? Was it a
Well,
vibrant and
I
evolving thing? Did you have
yeah.
all the resources you need? What was it like?
But I didn't start as sound engineering. That's the
Hmm.
first thing.
Hmm.
When I was 19, I'm a member of the Baha'i Faith, and they had a 4 month, no, a 4 year teaching campaign in Guyana.
Right.
And the National Spiritual Assembly here in Trinidad and Tobago, they sent me over there to learn what's going on there and to report back. And it
Hmm.
was a 3 week stay, but I love that country so much, Guyana. I ended up spending 4 months there.
Hmm.
And during that time, um, then this was after I did my A levels and stuff, and I didn't really know what to do. I was going down the path of everybody say you want to become a doctor. So I was, being going on that path. But when I was in Guyana, I really discovered my calling in the arts, you know. So I came back and basically started learning guitar. I had my sister had a guitar, a nylon string guitar, and I used to spend, oh gosh, about 18, 19 hours on it, on that guitar, and sleep with the guitar on my bed. I was really obsessed with learning guitar. So much so that I joined a band in Barataria called AK-47. I know it's yeah, that's the name of the band. It doubled as a dojo for Muay Thai. So I had to do Muay Thai and play music. And we did everything from reggae back in times and so forth. And then after 2 years, I formed my own band because I know when you show the profile picture, I still don't look like it, but I'm a rock man, right? Yeah, heavy metal, speed metal, death metal, anything heavy. And I formed a band called Broken Mirrors, and we uh actually survived about 12 years in Trinidad and Tobago, original band.
Wow.
And yeah, and then from there, I'm a nerd, I'm a geek. So I decided, okay, this if music is going to be my thing, um, I'll look for ways to expand it. And while I was working at the National Baha'i Center, I was an assistant secretary at that time. I saw they had a television in the office, and I saw Kenny Phillips being interviewed on TV6
Mhm.
talking about sound engineering. And I just get a vibe. I said, watch. Um, this sounds like a plan. So I called TV6 immediately after and I spoke to Carlo, Carlo Cunahan, I think that's his name. And he said he just left, but here's his number. So I called Kenny Phillips while he was driving, and he said, if you want to learn about sound engineering, leave your job. So I said, cool. I left my job.
Wow.
Yeah, it's. I think you would realize that a lot of these things are safe and risk and jumping into the void, you know, to pursue your dreams. So I left my job and I stayed in Palm East, down deep south.
Mm.
Uh, and I stayed there for about 3 months. And I say more like stay there because I didn't really have enough money to keep going back and forth every day.
Because you
So
left
I
the
used to,
job.
that's right, that's my job. So I used to sleep on the studio floor, every night, almost every night. And he said he'd only give me 3 months to learn what I need to learn. So he actually trained me in the militaristic way of sound engineering. Back in the day, you cannot sit on the engineer's chair, chief engineer. You can't sit there. You have to earn that spot. So I was the gopher. I used to make the tea, used to make the coffee, first to, yeah, first to arrive,
Right.
um, very last to leave because I couldn't really leave in a sense. And that was just before Carnival.
Mm-hmm.
So all the autograph artists are coming. So, and I had to learn how to run sessions. That's what they call it, run recording sessions. So, and of course, I did not have that skill set. I was put in front of a Macintosh computer back in the day. For people of age who into computers, they would know everything before Windows 95 because I used to type in DOS.
Right.
And then from there. I get but from cuts from enough soca artists because I was moving fast enough. And you have to learn from the school of call it school of tough knocks, hard knocks. And that's why I learned to get myself established into sound engineering.
Right. Wow. So
Yeah,
you've
it
worked
was brutal.
on, ah,
It was brutal.
well, yeah,
It
it
was
sounds like the
brutal.
real, the intern in movies who you see just
Oh
suffering
yeah.
um,
Oh yeah.
for the craft. Yes. So you've worked on, films, Buck the Man Spirit and Jab in the Dark, Immune,
Yeah.
and all of that. And then you have done editing and so forth on globally recognized stuff, Pan Our Music Odyssey, Repercussions, Pan Our African Odyssey, and things like those really outstanding and things I would recommend people go and see. And these things I
Mm,
find have in many of them, a distinct Caribbean identity, even in, some of the titles, Jab and Buck and these things that we would be
oh
familiar
yeah.
with. So how do you see your work contributing to the visibility of the Caribbean talent on a global stage, which you have taken these things to? How do you see your work contributing to that visibility?
I think it's more firstly a case of
Hmm.
marketing myself to be in
Hmm.
those spaces because
Hmm.
people won't put you on projects if they don't know you exist. That's the
Hmm.
first thing.
Right.
So I tell everybody, yes, build your skill set, but you literally have to go through these spaces and places. And once you do, and in entertainment industry, what I've learned is that you are only as good as your last job, you know?
Okay.
So I had to make sure that every job that I do has to have definitely above and beyond a certain quality level. That's one. And two, it's also relationships, how you treat people,
Hmm.
right? I've come to a point, and I even do it with my own projects when people ask me to come to be with a certain group.
Hmm.
I ask them who's on the group and how are they with other people, you know? So I strongly um advocate for me being to work in that those places to have a Caribbean identity.
Hmm.
Um, first, foremost, market yourself, treat people right. Don't be a doormat.
Right.
And of course, listen to a lot of music. I have as a composer and sound engineer, you have to have listen to a wide amount of music,
Right.
and to make sure that you are culturally on the beat. Now, yes, that means that I may listen to some music that Caribbean music that I may not like, but if
Mm.
a composer or sound engineer wants a certain sound, I have to deliver,
Hmm.
you know. So for me to work on these particular films that has um, a cultural or a Trinbago slant,
Mhm.
yeah, um, I have to make sure that at least with my experience, uh, to one, make sure that the director is happy because I'm not doing this for me. In reality, I'm a cog in a machine, and I have to make sure that the ideas of the director and or producers uh, are fulfilled, or else I won't get the job. That's one. Two, if they want a Caribbean feel, I have to really break down and find out what kind of having a Caribbean feel it can mean many things to different people, even Caribbean people. So I have to make sure that I understand exactly what they want and then deliver. I don't know if that answers some of these questions because this is that question you asked is a very wide has a very wide answer. It's not
Yeah.
really a specific one answer, unfortunately.
Well,
With every job comes with its own quirks, you
right.
know, Caribbean or otherwise.
Yeah. Would you consider yourself established? I met you, you're very humble. I didn't know you had all of this, right? Because I met you on one project. Would you consider yourself as an established person and established in your career because you talked about marketing yourself?
Yeah. No, I do not consider myself established. In fact, I think that might uh, lead to complacency.
Hmm.
And complacency is death, So I'm basically always hungry, right? Um, but at the same time, uh, I have to make sure that people know my past records. I mean, awards notwithstanding, but just the quality work. In fact, um, I have records, and I tell people this as well. I have records since the early 90s, like newspaper clippings, posters, pictures, everything from the 90s all the way up to like last week, because I collect all these things because people have short memories, unfortunately,
Right.
so it's better to instead of saying I have done this, I have done that, show them the receipts, show them proof of purchase, and that brings up not only your worth, but also it makes life a lot easier in terms of getting other projects on your plate.
So let's talk a bit about your creative process. And I like that you said that, you have to know a lot of music. And then you talked about just now having all these newspaper clippings and stuff. How do you
Yeah.
come up with ideas for music in movies or games?
Okay, so a basic way of doing it for these kind of media, um, the director, well, I'll talk specifically about film. They will give you a rough, well, at least in my case, uh, I try to develop good relationships with the directors beforehand. So, usually with composers and sound designers, they would get a rough cut of the film first because they're post-production. So they usually come in at the very end. I try to get in at the very beginning, meaning I form a good relationship with the director and I get the script before shooting starts. Right? So so far I have been fortunate enough for that to happen in a lot of cases. So I sit down, I read the script, then I meet the director and I discuss the script. Why you want an audience to feel this way at this certain scene. Why you want a certain sound to happen here. What emotions do you want the audience to feel? What emotions do you want the audience to not feel? Where the music is going to start? Where you think the music will stop? And I pepper them with questions. Why the character is thinking this way? All these things. Because what a composer does is that a composer basically makes the subtext of the film. So the visuals are saying one thing, but the music could be saying something else, a subtext. So instead of just watching a film and saying I compose music and say, here, it sounds good, take it. it doesn't work that way. You quickly realize in whatever job that you have with film, video games, mobile apps, um, that you are in service to the director. You are completing the director's vision. The director took all this time. Think of it as a cake. The director took all this time to make the cake, get the ingredients, work with the cast, bake this cake. And now that director is giving the cake to you to finish it, which means putting the icing and the sprinkles on top. So I am the person who puts the icing and the sprinkles, to make the cake presentable, for the audience to consume. So my job is to make sure that the final product uh says what the director wants to say. So yeah, I have to listen to a lot of music to have a broad base, a broad foundation for me to draw ideas from. And how do I get these ideas? I watch the film, watch where certain points happen. Like if a person falls, for example, I have a choice whether to emphasize that fall or not. You know, whether to uh, emphasize another aspect visually that is happening on screen in the background. These kind of things. So I sit down, I watch the film once I get the script, and I already, as I said before, and I not script, the rough cut of the film. And as I said beforehand, I usually speak with the director and I have an idea. So I create an audio palette beforehand. Once the film comes to me, I will start experimenting with certain ideas. And then for each scene, I do some music and I send it to the director. And the director say yes or no for certain things, and I make changes. Once that scene is complete, it's greenlit, I go to the next scene, and then the same process happens, and then to the next scene till the film is complete. So it's an ever evolving, ever collaborative process. Even though I build ideas and I have a cadre of musical instruments, some acoustic, some are digital in the computer, and I have gigs. I'm fortunate to have gigs of sound
Right.
to draw from, both local, like the pan stuff, which I know you've heard from the
Right.
audiobook,
Right.
and even this morning I was speaking to a an artist who called me this morning, and to me, yes, I have stuff like for a full-fledged orchestra, I have that. I have these kind of things, but that comes to naught if you don't know how to use them properly and skillfully. And one more thing, time is always a factor because you have a release date of the film, so
Right.
I have to have so you have to have a deadline by this date. The film and the music for the film or the sound design has to be finished for it to be sent to mix, final
Mhm.
mixing.
Right. So we're listening to all the work you're putting in, so we can see why sound design is now a Grammy category and all of these different things, right? It's a really
It's a deep well, you know.
So I don't know if you'll be giving out
Uh-huh.
trade secrets here, but what tools
Mhm.
or software do you use to make these use your song tracks?
Yeah, no, there's no trade secrets. I used to use way back in the day,
Mhm.
things like Pro Tools and Logic. I
Mhm.
know people who are in this sound engineering and stuff knows what that means.
Right.
But I now am a hardcore PreSonus Studio One fan.
Right.
Um, these are called DAWs, digital audio workstations.
Right.
That's where you software that you could record music, whether a live musician or singer, or from a keyboard instruments through MIDI, which is another musical
Mhm.
interface protocol. And then you could actually combine it with film to create works of art. For video editors, they have another software called NLE, non-linear editors.
Right.
So they use that. So they will use that, send me the rough cut, then I use my DAW and create the music and or sound design. So that's some of the tools. Well, that's the main tool. In terms of musical instruments, they have a cadre of paid and free instruments. I'll start with some of the paid ones. For example, I have a few of the uh, BSO Spitfire Orchestra software and a few things like that. A lot them they have a lot of free instruments, which actually sounds quite good, quite professional. So a
Mhm.
lot of stuff that is from uh, a website called Piano Book,
Mhm.
right? Where regular non professionals, they take instruments and twist them up and record them and make beautiful instruments out of them. So you could have a finger snap and
Mhm.
that will turn into an organ, like a church organ. You could do that with sound design. And they put up there on that website and you could download it for free. So you have I have a combination of free and
Paid.
paid software. Oh, and let me just make one more plug for that in terms of paid software. They have locally made paid software which people don't use to the full extent, in my humble opinion.
Mhm.
It has a company called IndigiSounds, and they have created steel pan instruments,
Mhm.
all digital, so you can play it on your keyboard.
Mhm.
Steel pan. It has one for chutney and tassa, and
Mhm.
then my favorite one, the lavender rhythm section. So you can actually buy the lavender rhythm section pack and install it into your system, and you could create a lot of good rhythm, funny rhythm through it.
Is this a one-time sale thing, or do you have to like
Each of those are sold separately,
right,
and it's and you get the license
right.
to install it. Yeah, so it's for each of those instruments,
Okay.
and yeah, and you what I like about, for example, uh is it the Tassa one? No, I think it's the Chutney one. It has these two harmoniums, and not just any harmonium. It's not like those old time Mastana Baha yeah, old time Mastana Baha harmoniums. And when I heard that, I said, okay, I must buy that. That sounds very, very much like the Indo-Trinidadian experience.
It will come in useful sometime somewhere for sure.
Oh yeah, I've used it already. I've used it already for an animation on doubles.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that fits well. Yeah. So how do you stay current with all of these evolving technologies and platforms?
I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Hmm.
Um, in fact, I think when we met the second time at the restaurant, I think you may have seen the headphones in my head. I
Right.
listen to a lot of podcasts. And what I love about listening to podcasts, you listen to some of the best uh sound engineers, best composers on the planet, and they, you know, instead of going to a workshop where they just drop a little thing, you
Mhm.
have hours of this material and they keep dropping gems. They keep
Mm.
dropping a lot of gems. So I listen to a lot of that and absorb as much as I can and then try to apply it to the best of my ability through the projects I'm involved in.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I listen to a lot of podcasts,
All right. Well, I'm going to add mine to the list.
of course. Of course.
Yes, I want to ask about because I know you did film, but you're also doing video games and apps and things like that.
Yeah.
What's the difference on working on a video game or a film or an animation? What are some unique challenges you have in composing for those different,
A video game is it's basically the umbrella term is interactive music.
Okay.
So yeah, with a film, you start from the beginning and watch the film all the way to the end. In my mind, that's very linear, right? For interactive music though, you are in control of the your hero, for example. So that hero is walking through the forest and you hear forest music, and then he reaches the boss. And while he reaches the boss, the music changes, you know. but you're not ready for the meet the boss just yet because you don't have any enough weaponry or whatever. So you walk
Right.
back into the forest, and then the forest, then the music for the forest comes back in. It's
Right.
very interactive, So you have to have music that is one, does not bore the gamer, right? Because they be spending hours, I mean, you watch a film 3 hours max if the film is very long. But you will have a gamer, for example, that'll be playing this game for 12, 14 hours. You really don't want that music to be, boring. So you have to make the music one engaging and interactive. And of course, that still ties back down to whomever the director is of the game, unless you're making your own video game, which is another, you know, another thing. You're in service to the director of the product.
So video games also have directors, or is it?
They have their own, yeah. Everything is all these projects need direction, or a person who has the overall vision
Mhm.
for the project.
Interesting. Are you currently working on any video games or apps or film? If you want to share.
I Yeah, well, I can't say anything about the games.
Right.
The audiobook which you've heard,
Right.
that's recently
Right.
done.
And that's
But
from
in
Ibadan to
terms
Hell,
of
yeah. That's the audiobook he's talking
Mhm.
about, yes.
But the one that I'm working on right now with Anthony Fields, whom you had mentioned
Hmm.
earlier, he's a what you call a humanity-centered designer, and
Hmm.
he has won a truckload of awards as well.
Hmm.
And this is his fourth. He's under contract with Apple. This is like fourth year, I think, or
Nice.
fourth contract. You
Hmm.
know, and most importantly, he's training. You
Oh,
know,
yes.
yeah, training is everywhere.
Preparatory, right.
Of course. Um, we had an app called Slide Teller,
Hmm.
which is an award-winning app. We won a few international design awards, and what's it called that the Anthem Award. I think we won an Anthem Award for that app as well, if
Right.
I remember clearly.
Hmm.
Um, that app is dealing with the visually impaired.
Excellent.
We call them VIPs, visually
Right.
impaired persons. Uh, Now that app is basically I'll give a basic idea of the app. The app basically when a visually impaired person goes to a place and uses the app, once the area is compatible,
Mm-hmm.
it will tell the visually impaired person what's happening in front of them in terms of a play or film or what we did for our first run. It actually worked in the wild. We actually did a real life test. Uh, Mio Yamauchi. She's a poet uh, in Canada, and she had a show called How to Be Japanese. That's the name of the show. Yeah. So we used the app with some guest people who were visually impaired,
Hmm.
and they gave us, their feedback of what could work, what's not working, what can be improved, so forth. And we worked on it, and we won some awards. So right now, what we're doing, we are actually improving on it.
Hmm.
Um, it's already. I won't say the name just like that. I have to make sure that the name is trademarked.
Right.
But we are working on making the app uh a lot, not just a lot, only a lot bigger, but in wider in scope.
Hmm.
To get the VIP or VIP clients, once they become clients, to have more independence,
Hmm.
using this app. That would be on first on iOS, but of course, we'll be hoping to have it more also on Android as well.
Right.
So that's what we're working on at the moment. So all I can tell you so far is that I have created the brand logo in terms of the sound, the audio logo of the new product.
Hmm.
But that you'll know about that in about, you know 2, 3 months, or even
Next
sooner.
year.
Once he gives me the go ahead.
Hmm. Yes, you
Mhm.
mentioned two people, I think. I don't want
Mio Yamauchi
Mio
and
Gucci
Anthony
and
Phil.
Anthony Phils. Good. And
Yes, yes, not Gucci, Uchi, Yamauchi. Mhm.
yeah, oh, merci. Sorry, my bad. Because
It's all good.
I want to talk about collaboration because you're collaborating with people here. So how do collaboration and communication play a role in what you do in song designing?
First thing, I do not come into any project saying that I know everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's the let's get it, off the table one time. I do not walk in there saying I know everything.
Mm-hmm.
My job is to find solutions to a issue and or problem
Mm-hmm.
of, you know, making sure sound represents the brand or what the product tries to give to the consumer. That's the
Mm-hmm.
first thing. Um, and then I walk in there or zoom in because a few of these are of course through Zoom or Google Meet or what have you.
Right.
And all I do is just talk to them and
Mm-hmm.
find out what is their pain point. Even with Anthony Phillips and myself, we have been collaborating since 2018, um, putting out, great products and stuff. And it's always what are the pain points
Mm-hmm.
and how best can I relieve these pain points? And then they leave that part of building it or creating the sound to me. So it's not that I walk in there and beat my chest and say I'm going to, you know, solve your problem and have an ego trip. That's not how collaboration works in my opinion. It's a collaboration. You take it as it is. It's a collaboration. All of us have our skill sets in different fields. Because, for example, I'm not a designer in terms of, building apps or making logos or these kind of things. My specialty is sound, but as I said, it's not a case of I'm going to be know all and be all and end all because I'm still a learner just like everybody else. So, but my job is to make sure everybody's comfortable with what I bring to the table. An artist associate of mine said something which is very true, and I take it very, very strongly. I believe it very strongly that Trinidad and Tobago has most of a multi-talent per square foot on the planet.
Right.
I truly believe that,
Mm-hmm.
but if we keep siphoning it off, or only certain types of art are quote unquote respectable,
Right.
or arts are only for carnival, you know, then we're really, really missing out on a lot of uh, creative potential from young people, and even established people as well.
Thank you. Well, Navid, thank you for sharing your insights and showing, that the creative part isn't just a one size fits all. For our listeners, whether you're a student, a teacher, a lifelong learner, remember that your career can start anywhere as long as you're willing to learn and grow. So thanks for tuning in. I am Lana, the educator. Remember, you empower minds and you ignite curiosity. Thank you, Navid.
Thank you so much.